Emily looked at me mockingly after I announced my resignation, and I only stared at her in silence in response. Our conversation revolved around the company's decision to cut labor costs, with particular scorn directed at those who were allegedly exploiting overtime. Tom didn't seem to mind cutting costs either. A week later, my phone started ringing incessantly from the company. Upon answering the call, the president abruptly inquired, "Who are you?" I couldn't help myself and mockingly answered the president's question. In response, I introduced myself as Lily Johnson, a 59-year-old employee with 37 years of dedicated service since graduating from college. I explained that our company was in the business of providing administrative services, specifically serving busy company presidents, doing clerical work, specializing in tax-related matters. I proudly managed 45 clients, a responsibility that had become exorbitant despite the help of a part-time employee. Despite the challenges, I could not show the slightest sign of weakness. Our clients were longtime partners, and their difficulties fueled my resolve. Today, as I sat at my computer, I couldn't shake the feeling that Tom and Emily were constantly harassing me. Tom, who was 7 years younger than me and was now head of the tax department, had changed his behavior dramatically 3 months ago after his promotion. His once polite tone was replaced by condescension and complaints, turning every interaction into a fight. Even when I objected, he remained unfazed, ordering me to address my superiors and cautioning me against unnecessary actions. Emily, Tom's assistant, joined in the bullying, criticizing my efficiency and ridiculing my rank-and-file status, despite the fact that I was the first to refuse a promotion to department head, which Tom and Emily were unaware of. I decided to carry out my regular duties, but their harassment continued, and Tom blamed me for the increased overtime, calling it a waste of time. Emily echoed him, sighing and claiming that my constant overtime was reducing the efficiency of the entire tax department. The reason for my overtime is that Tom unexpectedly left a month's worth of client files on my desk to be processed by the end of the month. After work, my face lost color as I glanced at the files lying in front of me. "Wait, they all have deadlines this month, right?" I uttered in confusion. Before I could realize the gravity of the situation, however, Tom was already packing up his desk. "I'm leaving. Take care of this," he remarked nonchalantly as he quickly left the office, leaving me with a pile of pressing matters. Emily followed suit, adding a mocking laugh. The improbability of the situation weighed on me, and I sighed heavily as I opened the client files scattered on my desk. To my horror, some of them had originally belonged to Emily. The realization of that fact made me sigh even deeper. I realized why Tom had harassed me relentlessly. They wanted me to retire as soon as possible. My vast experience and in-depth knowledge of taxation made me a more favored assistant to the other tax department staff than Tom. Tom's unapproachable demeanor and unattractive appearance made everyone but Emily avoid him. Emily's closeness to him seemed to be strategic, stemming from Tom's preference for younger female employees. The superficiality of their thinking sent a chill down my spine. Emily's harassment wasn't just personal revenge. She sought to gain favor with Tom, who was evaluating the tax department. In spite of all these difficulties, I had to manage the returns and prepare tax returns for the companies entrusted to me. It seemed that the work was far from over for the day. However, demanding overtime would only invite complaints from Tom and Emily, and I resigned myself to the prospect of unpaid extra hours. Then, out of the blue, I received a summons to the president's office. Our company had recently undergone a change in leadership due to the sudden illness of the former president. The new president, the son of the former president, was not fully familiar with our company. Upon entering the office, I noticed Tom and Emily with unpleasant smirks on their faces. In the tense atmosphere, the president dropped a bombshell. "Lily, we need you to quit by the end of this month." My head spun as I asked for clarification. Tom and Emily accused me of overbilling for overtime, citing that while the others had about 15 hours, I had over 80. The president, unaware of the true circumstances, seemed impressed that Tom and Emily were not working overtime. The reality of the situation struck me. The inflated overtime was the result of me doing Tom and Emily's work. However, by revealing Tom's instructions, I risked portraying this as my own inability to manage effectively. I presented the facts, asserting that I hadn't overbilled for overtime but struggled to finish my workload within regular hours. The president sighed deeply, expressing doubt but acknowledging the lack of evidence to pursue the matter further. Nevertheless, he insisted that they couldn't retain someone working at such a slow pace. Resigned to the situation, the president suggested my resignation, and it seemed his mind was made up. Told to leave the company I had devoted 37 years to, I felt a weariness settle in. Despite my dedication, the additional workload from Tom and Emily went unappreciated. I agreed to resign at the end of the month, acknowledging that I had already communicated my decision to the president. As I glanced at Tom and Emily, their vulgar smiles reflected satisfaction. Leaving the president's office, Emily taunted me with a sarcastic, "Thanks for quitting," her sneer cutting through. I responded with a silent stare, facing similar disdain from Tom, who shared his approval of cutting labor costs and labeled me as someone exploiting overtime pay. Observing their cheerful conversation, I pondered the handover process, creating documents for all my clients. I ensured proper farewells and appointments with those I could meet personally. Unable to schedule a meeting with the president, I resorted to letters to inform them of my successor. A week post-resignation, enjoying a moment of relaxation at home, my mobile phone rang. Seeing the company's call, I hesitated, having already completed social insurance procedures. However, persistent calls from both the company and Tom and Emily's personal mobiles led me to answer reluctantly. As I picked up, the president urgently spoke, asking, "Who exactly are you?" I couldn't help but mockingly reply, "Just an unemployed lady who resigned from the company, nothing else." In response, the president urgently explained the chaos since my departure. 49 calls to stop transactions with the company. He pleaded for my immediate return, revealing a sense of panic in his tone. Reluctantly, I rose from my seat and made my way back to the company. Upon my arrival, I found Tom and Emily waiting, their faces notably pale, and dark circles underlining their weary eyes. Surprised by their drastic change in appearance, I inquired about what was happening. Tom glared at me and revealed, "Since you left, we've been bombarded with calls to stop transactions, not just from your clients, but also from prospective companies we were planning to introduce." "What did you do?" Emily echoed the suspicion, expressing disillusionment at the thought of me resorting to underhanded tactics. Their haggard appearance suggested the toll-handling cancellations, while I had not manipulated the clients. I had a hunch about the reason behind the transaction halts. Considering the inevitability of cancellations, I mumbled my thoughts aloud. Tom, however, accused me outright, insisting I had orchestrated something. He demanded I go to the president's office immediately, forcefully escorting me there. Upon entering the president's office with Tom and Emily, the president greeted me with a direct look in his eyes. Tom declared, "President, I brought her," with an air of authority, while Emily hurriedly followed suit, ignoring their accusatory tone. The president questioned me about the abrupt halt in transactions after my departure. I took a deep breath and explained, "Our clients don't need us to manage their taxes. There are tax accountant firms that offer cheaper services. The reason they continued with us is because of me," Tom snapped back, questioning my self-worth, and Emily taunted me, both challenging my value to the company. Undeterred, I elaborated on my unique approach, offering tailored tax-saving strategies that resonated with our clients. Tom dismissed it as inefficient, arguing that their manual-based operations were more practical. The president sighed deeply, recognizing the fundamental difference in our approaches. In a serious tone, he said, "Actually," signaling a crucial revelation or decision to follow, I received a surprising call from my father, the former president. It turns out that some clients who had stopped transactions went directly to Dad to negotiate on my behalf. I hadn't anticipated clients going to such lengths for me. Dad emphasized that the tax department thrived because of my contributions. Not only did I manage my clients efficiently, but I also supported my colleagues, clients possessing knowledge that even Tom couldn't match. Dad disclosed that if I hadn't declined the promotion, I would have held a higher position than a department head by now. The current president expressed regret with a pained expression. Emily appeared shocked, probably grappling with the idea that I could have been her superior. The president apologized for making me resign initially and asked if I would consider revoking my resignation. According to Dad, I was indispensable to the company. While I appreciated the change in the president's perspective, I hesitated to accept. Tom interrupted our conversation, visibly upset, and protested the president's decision, questioning why I was chosen over him. Emily echoed his sentiments, praising Tom's leadership and expressing disbelief at the preference for me. The president then sternly addressed them, revealing that since my resignation, numerous complaints had been received from the tax department, suggesting they had been shifting their workload onto others. Tom's face turned pale as the president exposed the fact that he had been pushing the preparation of client declaration forms onto subordinates, including Emily's work for multiple clients. The president pointed out the irony, considering Tom had accused me of being a salary thief. Observing Tom and Emily's pale expressions, the president continued by revealing an alleged leak about their romantic involvement. Tom struggled to defend himself, claiming he was merely mentoring Emily as her superior. However, the president produced receipts from the accounting department indicating dining expenses filed by Tom. Confronted with evidence, Tom, sweating profusely, was unable to provide a convincing explanation. Emily, too, turned ghostly pale as the president accused them of neglecting their duties, inflating expense claims, and violating company policy by having an affair in the office while being married. In a calm and straightforward manner, the president declared the termination of their employment effective immediately. Tom and Emily tried to resist, promising to retract the receipt claims and pleading for their jobs. "I have a family," Tom desperately pleaded, attempting to reverse his termination. Emily echoed his sentiments, carefully expressing her fear of being fired. She promised to apologize to me and others for burdening them with work. Realizing the gravity of the situation involving neglect of duties and an affair with a supervisor, concerned about her reputation, she implored for a second chance. Sensing their desperation, I offered advice. "Why don't you stop resisting? It's undignified," I suggested. Tom glared at me, retorting, "Shut up! What would a single person like you understand?" I sighed, reminding him, "Tom, you were the one who got me fired. It's just karma. What goes around comes around. Why don't you take some responsibility and reflect a bit?" Frustrated, Tom looked away while Emily bit her lip in distress. Aware of more details about their misconduct, I turned to the president, asking with a smile if I should share them. Tom and Emily frantically tried to stop me, fearing further exposure. I issued an ultimatum, warning them that wrongdoings would eventually come to light, urging them to face reality before it worsened. At my word, both Tom and Emily collapsed to their knees, and the president decided to fire them on the spot. Later, I revealed more about their misdeeds, including Tom faking business trips to spend days with Emily and their insidious tactics of harassing disliked employees into quitting. Despite my attempts to help those employees, Tom and Emily's strategies were relentless. They repeatedly reprimanded and pressured employees out of my sight, often assigning sudden tasks with tight deadlines. The resigned employees had initially asked me to keep quiet, but since they were now happily working elsewhere, I decided it was time to speak up. The president, furious at my revelations, expressed anger about cutting Tom and Emily's final salary. He planned to thoroughly investigate past inflated expense claims. Tom, with tears in his eyes, thanked the president not to cut his salary, fearing the impact on his family. As the truth unraveled, Tom's affair with Emily came to light, leading to Tom's divorce. The two now face claims for compensation in the divorce lawsuit, marking the consequential aftermath of their actions. I became aware of the situation when Tom reached out to me, seeking assistance in persuading the president to reconsider their firing. Emily and Tom found themselves in dire straits. Despite their efforts, they struggled to secure new jobs in the tax industry. The industry's close-knit nature meant that word of their misdeeds spread rapidly, making potential employers hesitant to hire them. Desperate for income to cover divorce compensation and living expenses, they resorted to day labor at construction sites, a stark departure from their previous office roles. Emily would often call me in tears, pleading for help. "Lily, please help. I only wanted a better life, and I never truly liked Tom," she cried. However, I couldn't ignore the fact that their predicament was a consequence of their own actions. Many, including myself, had been impacted by their behavior. I reminded Emily that the consequences were a result of her choices. "You can't unring a bell," I told her firmly. Facing hardships was the consequence of her decisions. Emily's despair echoed through her protests. Despite her regrets, the outcome remained unchanged. As for me, I chose to distance myself from the chaos of the corporate world. Despite the president's pleas for my return, I declined. Once told to resign, I had no desire to return. Instead, I found solace in assisting at a friend's tax office, supplementing my income, and enjoying a more relaxed lifestyle. In the future, I entertained the idea of starting my own office where I could serve my clients without the constraints of corporate bureaucracy. In my own space, I could fully dedicate myself to my clients' needs. As a tax accountant, I aspired to be on equal footing with my clients, providing service without superiority. This marked the beginning of a new chapter in my life.